The whole idea of corporate being family, oh, I have been squashing that for a very long time. And that is a perfect example why that's bullshit.
It's bullshit. It's absolute bullshit. And companies, like, you could say, I used to use the analogy, don't think of it as a family, it's like a sports team. Well, you can't even really think of it as a sports team. And here's why I have problems with that analogy. In a sports team, you're going to keep star players and you're going to get rid of not star players. Maybe some companies do that, but not all do. You're a line item on a spreadsheet. Oh, we need to reduce, and so we'll reduce this person. Right? They might not even know my name. Or, you know what? It's behind a black box. Maybe they did know who they were reducing and they did it for some other reason. The problem is that the power dynamic is not in the favor of the worker, it's in the favor of the business. So to get your severance, you have to do it exactly what they say, or you have to get a lawyer. And to get a lawyer is not a cheap thing. You don't like just go get one at the store. You have to get a lawyer to do something like that. It's going to cost you about $5,000, and you might not even win. And your severance is going to be delayed during that time. So if you haven't saved up money, you're really fucked.
Yeah.
It's not, the power dynamic is not fair.
Yeah, that's
What
true.
should happen, and companies aren't going to self-correct. I don't love a lot of government regulation overall, but in this particular case, companies are not going to do the right thing. And the reality is this: companies should be penalized for laying people off. And by penalized, I'm not saying let's fine them. I'm saying that you hired people, you made that direct decision to do that. If you lay people off, you're on the hook for a year. You pay their salary for a year, regardless. And it's every company. I don't care if you chose to hire people and you lay them off, you're on the hook for a year, rather than giving me some bullshit. You pay some bullshit unemployment tax that doesn't even cover my mortgage. Then they've got some skin in the game here. Other countries do shit like this. America doesn't. And so companies are just like, oh, well, we'll just send out a warn notice and lay off 13,000 people. Well, now 13,000 people are without a job. Some are going to have money in the bank, others won't. And most are not going to speak out like I do.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't know, Ari, do you think that it has always been this way? Just feels ruthless. I'll just throw that word out there. Companies doing these layoffs, do you feel like it's always been that way, or is it just worse now?
I think companies have always acted this way. I think it's worse now because of all of the things we're seeing. The AI movement, I think you hit it on the head. People are like, AI. And what it really is, wait a second, we found a way that's new, a new toy that can reduce operating expenses. So let's play with this and see if we can reduce operating expenses. So we're seeing companies do this. And those that say it like that are rolling it back, they're not fully going to roll it back. They're just going to look for another way to make this work for them. I think companies have always been this way, but when things are in abundance, like they were 4 or 5 years ago, and companies were hiring, we didn't feel it because we were the benefactors of it. The worker was like, these companies at that point were like, we need great talent. To get great talent, we have to pay better. We have to do sign-on bonuses. We have to have fucking ping pong tables and kombucha and all sorts of shit that they threw at workers to get workers there. Notice that as soon as they didn't have to do that anymore, all that stopped. Salaries dropped. Now it is absolutely it is the buyers, or is it a buyer's market or sell? It's their market. They control, they're in full on control, which is why they don't give a shit if they ghost you. This is remarkable to me. I worked at Twilio, and while I was there, and we were hiring for a role, right? So I was hiring for a role, and I referred several people there, or they were hiring for a UX role, and I referred people there, and they got automated rejections. And I reached out to human resources and I said, look, if I refer somebody to you, I expect somebody to have a conversation with them. You don't have to hire them. I'll stay out of the process. I want it to be what you need it to be. But you're going to show me and them the respect, or I'm just not going to refer people here. I have now applied for jobs at companies where people work, like all over the country, where I've been referred by internal candidates and I get automated rejections. Like, that's gross. That's
Yeah,
fucking gross.
it is.
And shame on talent acquisition for that. Like, shame on HR for that.
Yeah. And
So,
along the same
yeah,
lines are these companies that this gets, it makes my blood boil. Companies that lay off people and say they're low performers. How fucked up is that?
it's a cloaked bullshit excuse. If they were such a low performer, then like begs a few questions. Like the first question I have is, wait a second, they're a low performer. What has the manager done to fix that? Have you guys done corrective stuff? Have you tried to coach them? Is it the environment one where they've laid people off every quarter for the last year? Is it an environment they've had 5 bosses in 2 years and 7 months? I never got a less than meet standard review at Twilio ever. And I say that because I think it's important to know that these companies, they'll use whatever excuse they have because they can fire people for any reason if you're in an at-will state, as long
Yeah.
as it's not an illegal reason, meaning that we're firing Ari because he's over 50 years old. That's illegal,
Right.
an illegal reason. So they'll just they'll yeah, it's gross, it's despicable. Like it's if why is the leadership and management not being held accountable for those things? What have you done to increase productivity? What's really fucking funny is that when they do that and then they rehire new people like overseas or something, so it wasn't really that, it was we're saving money.
Yeah. And it's a double stab, right? I saw people who were like, I got exceptional reviews, like what you were talking about. I am not a low performer, but it is a double stab because not only are you getting laid off, but the company is saying everyone we laid off in this round is a low performer. So what's the next employer going to do? They're going to assume you're a low performer, and it decreases your opportunities to get a new job.
Yeah, I think, look, the reality is this, and this kind of comes full circle to a post I made recently that I'm sure you're aware of, is that if you operate in a world where you work for an employer, you are a company in and of yourself. You're just trusting your entire income stream to one business. It's really dangerous. And it's because of what you said. Like one person can cut that off and you're done. Right now, the market is such that I'm interviewing for roles that, like, I'm telling you, I've been told several times, you're overqualified for the role. Well, yeah, that's really hard. I had an interview recently where a manager was asking me, what kind of professional development do you want over the next, like, how do you want to grow in the next year? Now, I can learn something from anybody, but to ask me that question when I was in your boss's role, like a few months ago, it's, it's not a great vibe. And it's a really hard question for me to answer. Like, how are you going to help me grow? I don't know. How are you going to teach? You're asking me how you're going to teach me to grow as a researcher when I'm applying for a role. That's the role I had when I started in research, senior researcher roles.
Right. Well, they should have changed up that question a little bit. That sounds like pretty boilerplate question. You know, when
It's but exactly what's happening. This is what people are confronted with today. And I feel awful for these people that have been applying for jobs for 2 years or for 18 months, and they're running into the same stuff that I'm running into. If I send out 100 applications this week, I'm going to get 0 response from 90 of them. I'm going to get rejections from 9, and I might get 1 phone screener interview. Might. I think that number is even smaller. It is the worst hiring market I've ever seen.